Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Creatively. I'm your host, Kathy Morgan. Since this is my debut podcast, I'd like to introduce myself and give you a little background on me. I would like to touch on some of the things that I'll be talking about in my shows, but right now it would be great if you could hit the subscribe button and leave me a comment or a question you might like to discuss on the show. That'll give me some great content. So let's get acquainted. I've been a maker for a long time, as long as I can remember, even as a kid. But I won't start that far back. Let's start a little closer to time than that. Okay, I'll just say that I'm pretty big on taking classes, and I love to learn, and I also love to teach. I've displayed my art and jewelry in public shows, private collections throughout the U.S. and Canada, in galleries and in stores, government buildings and hospitals. I was one of seven of a founding member of TAG Studio, which is affiliated with South Florida State College, and that's located in Avon Park, Florida. I taught at South Florida State College as an adjunct teacher at TAG Studio for about 8 years. I started my own studio and managed to work both for a number of years, but eventually my personal studio got busier and I decided to teach full-time classes at the studio. And it was called Ion Art Morgan Studio, and I did that for many years, actually until COVID. Unfortunately, COVID closed many small businesses down, and my studio was one of them. After being at home during COVID for a year, my husband and I decided to move, and move we did. Because of the demand for housing, we ended up buying a home that was a 15-year rental, and we did about a 14-month renovation on it, and now I have the back to prove that. But now that we are done with the house, I feel like I still have a lot of information and experience on creativity to offer, and that's why this podcast has been created, to share information and experience with you. I hope to cover more than just projects. I hope to cover lessons that I've learned along the way, and maybe you'll be able to skip some of those steps through my experiences. Here's just some of the samples that we'll be covering in the podcast. I hope to cover the fact that anyone can create. I've heard so many people say, I don't have a talent for that. Everyone has a talent. You just need to find out the talent and to develop it and find what you can do. And you can do more than you think you can, but how do you find out what you're talented at? And my theory is talent can be learned, and we're going to talk all about learning talent. What inspires you to create? What excites you? You might not even know what excites you yet, or as far as projects or anything goes, but there's a way to find out. And how do you overcome burnout? How do you get your mojo back? And how do you market yourself and your art or your product? How do you get into galleries or festivals or stores, online sales and more? Is social media the place to sell, or is it oversaturated? Where and how do you sell online? How do I sell to my social circles? Really, what is a social circle these days after COVID? So we're going to discuss those type of things. Trying a new medium, or actually going from one thing to another and trying something new, because what you're doing may not be working. And what we got to go to is, you ever heard the old saying that if you got lemons, make a lemonade, or think outside the box? There are thoughtful questions that can make you ask yourself to inspire a different way of thinking. And we're going to talk about those questions and so much more throughout each podcast. So let's talk a little bit about being creative. Some people don't think they're talented enough to be creative, but we don't realize that you are creative out of necessity, not talent. When we have a problem or we're trying to fix something, we become creative to provide a service or satisfaction for ourselves and make it work to solve an issue. This is creativity. Too many people think it's making a project or putting things together, but it's every day is creativity. We use creativity every day. We're all creative in different ways and talented in different things. I can paint, but I couldn't cook until COVID. And then I developed a so-called talent for cooking. I still don't like to cook, but I create some really good food. And my husband and I would rather eat at home than to eat in a restaurant now. Well, I would rather eat at home except for the cooking and the cleaning up part. I still don't like that. Anyways, this helps us realize that those that don't have a so-called talent for something probably haven't actually put forth the time and the effort to really give it a go. Or it was overwhelming to paint, let's say like a whole painting. They look at the painting and they're overwhelmed by it. Well, I don't even know where to start. So it's easier just to say, I don't have a talent for that kind of a project. And they don't believe that they can do a project like that. If you would like to paint, take a class and get instructions to learn the creativity of painting. The fear of not succeeding keeps us from trying. I found out that in my paint classes that most people look at the painting and say, I would love to be able to paint that, but they're overwhelmed and just by looking at the whole project. I found that if you break the painting down into techniques and sections, it's easier, not so overwhelming. Learn to paint the background, the sky, the clouds first, then the trees, and then a lake, etc., etc. And then layer each thing into a painting. As you learn, you can start from the back and layer each thing that you learn onto it. And before you realize it, you have a full painting. And you didn't think you could do it. You're so creative. Small steps and you become so talented. But I burnt some of my meals, and some things didn't taste as good as other meals. But always remember, we learn more from our mistakes than any other way of learning. When you're learning what not to do, that tells you what to do. That's about time for us today, but I hope you'll join me, and please press the subscribe button to be notified of a new podcast when they're posted, and leave me a question that we can discuss on the show. So please download all the podcasts and listen to them at your convenience, and please share them with your friends. I'm Kathy Morgan, and you have been listening to Let's Talk Creatively. You can also leave your questions or reviews at KathleenMorgan22@gmail.com. Thank you, and I hope we can connect again.